This is No Money Mo Money. This tiny potato's been on an adventure to experience everything on the Final Fantasy XIV free trial. But after a night of betrayal and loss, there's only one path left to continue his adventures. A path that will take him I've recently gotten back into gardening for some other stuff, but it also reminds me that I am now at a point where I can finally start making Thavnairian onions. Since I'm here, let's get started. First, we start off with purchasing some cracker root seeds. We'll need 5 of these to get this whole process going. There's no other way to acquire them, so I just buy them from here. And next, finally, after about 25 nodes, I actually hit the rare hidden item, which is mirror apple seeds. Oh god, and the worst part about this? Whack. One, you get 1. I need 5 of these seeds to get my farm going. Luckily, I don't need any more once the farm is going. I can recycle the cracker root seeds once the farm is up and running. But I need to get 5 more of these mirror apple seeds. So, you know, just give me an hour and a half to take care of this. Hey, managed to max out my botanist too while I was doing this. Nice. Alright, there we go. Got my 5 mirror apples, which means I can finally get this garden started. Alright, let's get to this. Step 1. We toss a mirror apple up here. And instead of using any actual soil with this, we just use potting soil, because this thing is temporary. After all of that annoying gathering of hidden nodes, we have to use this as a temporary seed, which kind of sucks. And we do the same here. Now, we can get to the actual gardening, since those sacrificial mirror apples are down. We put using Thavnairian topsoil, which is the one that really helps with crossbreeding plants. We slap down cracker root seeds on all sides of the planted mirror apples. See, when you're trying to crossbreed plants, all that matters is that you're planting them next to a plant they're able to crossbreed with. That's why we're sacrificing those mirror apples. The first mirror apple I put into the plot wasn't going to crossbreed with anything, so I just throw it down with potting soil and I toss it out later. But we needed the mirror apples down so we could get the cracker roots in and have them successfully crossbreeding, because crossbreeding is decided the moment you plant them. So they have to be next to a plant that's already in the moment you plant them, or they're not going to crossbreed with anything. We pull up our little sacrificial ones. And then we replace them with new ones. This time, actually use the Thavnairian topsoil as well. Mirror apple. Stick that in. But now it has a chance to crossbreed. Another mirror apple. And then we do it here, like in a Y shape, basically. Because this allows us to have mirror apples, just enough of them in the farm. See, so now we've got a Y shape of mirror apples, and that's just enough of them that every single one of the cracker roots we're planting, like this one here, is going to be touching one of the mirror apples when it's planted, which gives it a full chance to crossbreed. And there we go. A Y shape of mirror apples, and then 5 cracker roots. Now we just need to let those grow, and I need to remember to tend to them every single day, because if you don't, they're gonna rot. And when they're done, we'll go ahead and pull those up. I'm also gonna start making some fish meal, which you can use to fertilize your crops and speed up their growth time. It's really easy to do. All I needed to do was fish up some of these anchovies and then craft them up with a couple of shards. Like, that's all there is to it. Dude, that's nuts to me. Just a few anchovies and some shards and you get 12 fish meal per craft. And it doesn't have any high quality version, so I can just quick simp all of these anchovies down real fast. Now that we have the fish meal, we can grab our crops and we can fertilize them. The idea behind fish meal is that you can only apply it every so often, but it speeds up your crop growth every time you do. So the basic idea behind it is that every time you go to tend your crops, throw some fish meal on it. It basically removes about 1% of the growth time from your crop, so starting to use fish meal as early as possible and then using it as often as possible will speed up your crops as much as possible. Now, as you look at that, it's been many days, but our crops have grown. Our mere apples and our cracker roots. Now, I'm going to leave the mere apples down because I don't want to actually harvest them. I'm going to harvest all the cracker roots, and what I'm looking for is for them to have crossbred into Curiel roots. I'll need at least 3 Curiel roots for the final stage. Harvest the cracker. I got sun lemon seeds. That's worthless to me. Harvest the cracker. There's 1 Curiel. 2 Curiel. Hey, nice. Come on. 3 Curiel. That's everything I need from this crop. I could get more Curiel root seeds, but in the final stage, I think I'm going to put my 3 Curiel root seeds down and then just leave them there. I don't think I'm going to bother harvesting them at all. So I'll probably just do the 3 Curiel root seeds and be done with it. Now we can move on to stage 2, but first I need to go and gather some more seeds. Unfortunately, these old world fig seeds that I need only come from a legendary node, which means I can only harvest them twice a day in game. But one thing I need to do is just increase the output, because I'm going to want as many whole old world fig seeds as possible. Even though for right now, I'm going to be crossing these old world figs with these mere apples to create royal Kukuru seeds. Later, when we've replaced these mere apples with Curiel root, the old world figs can cross with that to create more royal Kukuru seeds. So having as many old world figs as I can will turn out to be useful, because once I have enough royal Kukuru seeds to get the whole plot going, as in 5 royal Kukuru seeds, I can just replace the mere apples with Curiel roots, and then anytime I start to run low on Kukuru seeds, I can actually put in more old world fig seeds and cross them with the Curiel to like refresh my Kukuru seeds, while the cross between the Curiel roots and the Kukuru seeds is giving me Thavnairian seeds. So in every single one of these 5 spots, we are going to throw in old world figs with Thonolin topsoil. Old world figs with Thonolin. And once again, fertilizer reduces the crop's growth time by 1% of the current time. So it's best to use fertilizer right at the beginning. You can try using it as often as you want, but the fact that you can fertilize a plant every single hour makes gardening even more tedious than having to try and remember to water them every single day, you know? So I don't really bother. I come back and I water my plants twice a day, and I fertilize the plants when I come back and water them. So I'm only doing like 1/12 of the fertilizing I could on my plants, but I just don't care enough to come back every single hour to fertilize them. Every old world fig is next to a mirror apple, and then these ones are next to other old world figs, but it can't crossbreed with itself, so that's not a problem. We will have to pay attention to that later, though. Making sure not to put, like, an old world fig here and a Kukuru here. Because while they can certainly crossbreed with the other plants, they could crossbreed with each other to give me something I don't want. Rather than doing a 4x4 plot setup like Mello has here, I've done a 5x3, and the reason why that's considered more advanced is you need to make sure that whatever you're planting in these two spots here is the same seed, so you don't accidentally crossbreed with something you don't want. Alright, looks like these ones are finally done growing. My old world figs are finished, so let's start by uprooting my old world figs, and let's figure out how many Kukuru beans I got. There's one. There's two. 3. Nice. Good return. 4. And 5. Every single one of them turned into Kukuru seeds. That means it's time to change over my crops so that I can start getting the Thavnairian onion seeds. So in order to start here, let's uproot all of these mirror apples because I don't need them anymore. So we're going to want a Curiel root here, which means we grab this plot next to it and we stick an old world fig for sacrificing. Oh, I don't have any potting soil. You know what? I'll throw down some shroud. It's a waste of shroud. You should just use potting soil because you're going to immediately uproot this, so it doesn't matter what soil you use. But I have an abundance of shroud. I'll just go ahead and use it. So, we stick down Curiel root here with Thonolin for crossbreeding. And then we put down a Curiel here. Again, Thonolin for crossbreeding. And then a Curiel here. So both of them crossbreed off of that old world fig in the center. Oh, not shroud. Thonolin for crossbreeding. And then why I call them sacrificial plants is because you then remove these crops. Because those crops were not there for you to actually grow old world figs or crossbreed old world figs. Those crops were there so that when you planted the Curiels next to them, they would get the crossbreeding bonus. And now that my 3 Curiels are down, we fill all the rest of the slots in this plot with Royal Kukuru and Thonolin topsoil for crossbreeding bonus. And these should be able to give me Thavnairian onion seeds. It's not a great percentage. I think it's somewhere in the vein of like 50 or 60% chance that you get them, rather than if you use a grade 3 Thonolin topsoil, usually your crossbreed percentage is somewhere in like 90 or 95%, but since Thavnairian onions is like one of the rarest plants in the game, its crossbreed percent, even with the best Thonolin topsoil possible, is still only about flip a coin and let's see what you get, you know? Royal Kukuru with Thonolin, Royal Kukuru with Thonolin, and Royal Kukuru with Thonolin, which should be the last of my Royal Kukuru seeds. But for now, I just need to fertilize these crops and water them, and just keep fertilizing and watering them a couple of times a day until they're all grown up, so I can have a chance to pull some Thavnairian onion seeds out of there. We are back once again, days later, and my plants are grown, which means it's time to rip them up and see how many Thavnairian onions we managed to pull out of here. Got a bag of Thavnairian onions out of it. Nice. Very, very nice. Got one Thavnairian onion. Got apricots, so that's the crossbreed I didn't want. 2 Thavnairian onions. Apricot again. 3 Thavnairian onions. 3 Thavnairian onions out of this round. So what I'm really going to want to do here is just replant Old World figs. Since I don't have any more Royal Kukuru, I'm going to have to replant Old World figs here and use them to crossbreed more Kukuru so that I can then try and crossbreed more Thavnairian onions. If I can manage to pull 3 onions out of each crop yield, I'll have to do this 3 times. Which is a bit, because the figs take 5 days to grow, and then the Kukuru takes 6 days to grow. So that's a good almost 2 weeks for every 1 chance at Thavnairian onions. Since we're far enough in the Thavnairian onion growth saga that we've actually managed to get the seeds themselves, I figure I may as well start planting them, because Thavnairian onions take forever to grow, and I'm still working on crossbreeding on the crop plot outside to get more Thavnairian onion seeds. And the other option that I have is in here. Since I'm going to need 9 or 10 Thavnairian onions, the growing plot outside can only hold 8. I figure I may as well grow 1 or 2 of them in here while I'm still working on crossbreeding the others. So I'm going to toss some Thavnair onions in. There isn't a reason to use Shroud Topsoil. I thought for a second that if you got the highest grade Shroud Topsoil, maybe you could turn Thavnair onions, which usually only give you 1 crop yield, into giving you at least 2. That's still not very good, but Thavnair onions are super rare, so they don't give you much, because they want them to be really rare and really difficult to make. I was wrong about that. It's even worse than I originally thought. Even if you use max rank Shroud Topsoil like I have here, you will never get any more than 1 Thavnairian onion out of your crops. Ever. It doesn't matter what topsoil you use, because Thavnair onions are not the sort of thing you want to crossbreed, because every crossbreed you're going to get out of them is something less valuable than a Thavnairian onion to you. And they also cannot increase crop yield no matter how strong of a Shroud Topsoil you use. So Thonolin and Shroud are both worthless. I really should just be using basic potting soil here, but I'm too lazy to go back outside, teleport down to the markets, and buy potting soil, and I have an overabundance of Shroud Topsoil that I don't use too often. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this. If you're doing Thavnairian onions, there's no reason for you to use this. Just use basic potting soil, unless you have plenty of this left over or whatever. Because this is not going to influence the crop yield or crossbreed or any of that in any way, shape, or form. Let's go ahead and toss that in. And then I will go ahead and fertilize it right away, which immediately takes 1% of the time off, which is great. So now I've got a Thavnairian onion actually growing is done. Our very first Thavnairian onion is completely finished with growing, finally. 1. Now if we summon dumplings, and then we feed him, boop, he's still 10, but now he can rank up again. Your best bets for leveling him up from here on out is going to be the Bosom Buddies weekly challenge logs. They give you XP, but if you notice, it's not this gold XP, it's this blue XP, which is companion XP. So running Bosom Buddies gives you level-based, ranked XP for your Chocobo, which means it's always going to give you very good XP for leveling him up. And it only requires you, in order to get both of these, to fight 100 enemies while your companion is out with a level similar to yourself, which isn't as easy to do in general for some people, especially since my warrior here is already level 70, but there is a trick to it. Fates. By using Fates, the game forces you to sink your level down to close enough to the enemies to fit this comparable level definition. So if you're further in the game, say Shadowbringers and later, a good option for hitting Bosom buddies each week is to run around those zones doing the shared fates, because you need to do those to unlock things that you can buy anyway. For these earlier zones, I'm going to use a slightly different option. The rest of my relics. So if we just progress our relic up to the point where we have a Zenith, which doesn't take too long, that's just the first few bits. You have to go and get the worn down version of it. You have to get some items out of a dungeon, craft something, meld a couple materia to it, and then you have to like run 5 trials, the 2 Relic Reborn trials, and the 3 hard primal trials. But once you get to the point that you have a Zenith Relic, you can start the Atma stage. So you see, you just have to go to these different locations, engage in fates, and unlock Atma. And the whole point is that we whip out our companion, who can now level up again, and then we use the fates to level sync us down to the level we need to be at to actually fit within that comparable level range, which means that when you finish an enemy, you can be working towards both the Atma as well as completing the Bosom Buddies challenge log for your Chocobo. And that's how you're going to take your Chocobo buddy from 10 all the way up to 20. While also, I suppose, getting a little extra work done on subsequent relics, too. And that takes care of Bosom Buddies 1 and 2. See, it's a pretty decent chunk of XP every single week. Hitting Bosom Buddies 1 and 2, and all it takes is fighting 100 enemies.
Several months later.
And now we're finally coming around to pretty much the end of this whole Thavnairian onion nonsense. In my inventory, I've got 2 that I grew in like single plots inside the house while I was working on grinding out the rest of the seeds, and 7 seeds here. So put that together, we've got 9 in the inventory and 1 on the Chocobo, that's 10. I don't actually know if I need 10 or need 9. I think I might need 10, but I don't know. So I figured I'd just get 10 in order to be safe. So the only thing left is to plant them and then grow them. So first, we uproot the Curiel roots. So it's a good thing I'm done, because I don't have extra Curiel roots to replace these with if I needed to do more later. And in the meantime, I picked up 1 Kukuru, which is useless to me now. And then we start planting our Thavnair onions. So we'll start planting them. And there we go. 7 Thavnair onions down. 2 in the inventory, 1 in the Chocobo. That's 10. Now I just need to actually tend to these crops, let them grow all the way up and harvest them, and I'll have all the Thavnair onions I'll ever need for my Chocobo. And now we're done. All that growing, all that crossbreeding, all that planting and watering and fertilizing and all that nonsense. But we are done. Let me go ahead and pick all these plants up. And that gives us 9 Thavnairian onions in our inventory, and 1 already on our Chocobo. But that is it. All of that planting, all of that gardening, all of that crossbreeding, all the fertilizing, all the watering, the constant trying to remember to check them multiple times every day so that they don't rot. Finally, after months of working on this. I have all the Thavnairian onions I need, and I can level my Chocobo up at my own pace. So I finished off my warrior's Atma weapon, but luckily I got my monk, his weapon, ready to do some Atma grinding. So we'll go ahead and grind out some more Atma while still working on trying to level up our Chocobo buddy over here. And with that, Bosom buddies, I will bet you... Yep, he has ranked up. Now that he's ranked up, let's go ahead and bring up his... I can actually feed him another Thavnair onion. And boop, he's ready to level up again. And now he gets access to new skills as well. And that is how we go about leveling up our Chocobo buddy. So we're just going to keep doing that every single week, getting the Bosom buddies and running fates and Atmas and all that nonsense, and just keep leveling him up and shoving onions down his throat till we get him to 20. Thanks for joining us for this Thavnairian onion grind, everybody. See you when we get him to 20. Bye-bye.